Bandwagon. The bandwagon technique plays on our natural desire to be part of a group. When everyone around seems to be doing something, we often feel a pull to join in. This is because being part of a group makes us feel secure and validated. Advertisers or politicians use this technique by suggesting that everyone is doing it or joining the cause, implying that you should too. It's like when a product is said to be the best-selling or a cause is claimed to be supported by everyone. The underlying message is clear: if you're not on board, you're missing out or left behind. Card stacking. Card stacking is all about manipulation through selective information. This technique involves presenting only the positives and omitting the negatives of an idea, product, or person. Think of it as a game where the dealer only shows you cards that make the game look appealing, hiding the ones that might make you think twice. It's used in advertising and political speeches to create a biased view, making the audience see only one side of the coin. This can lead to a skewed perception, as the full picture is never provided, pushing people to make decisions based on incomplete information. Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love. Glittering Generalities. Glittering generalities involves using emotionally appealing words that are vague enough to mean different things to different people but specific enough to evoke strong reactions. Phrases like freedom, honor, and glory are common examples. These words carry positive connotations and are universally valued, yet their precise definitions can be elusive. The technique is effective because it rallies emotions and creates a positive response without giving away any specific details. It's like a politician promising change or progress without explaining what those changes entail or how they will be achieved. Testimonials. Testimonials are the personal endorsements that leverage the credibility of a well-known individual to support a product, idea, or candidate. When a beloved celebrity or respected expert recommends something, we are more inclined to trust it because we trust them. This method taps into the audience's existing respect for the person giving the endorsement, making the product or idea seem more appealing. It's similar to a friend recommending a restaurant. Since you trust their judgment, you're more likely to dine there. Plain folks. The plain folks technique is used to make a person or product appear simple and relatable to the average audience. By presenting themselves as ordinary individuals or by showing how their product fits into the everyday life of an average person, they build trust and appeal. Politicians often use this approach by talking about their humble beginnings or family life to connect with voters on a personal level. It makes them seem more approachable and less like a distant figure of authority. Transfer. The transfer technique involves associating a positive symbol, person, or sentiment with a product or idea to subconsciously transfer the respect and admiration from the symbol to the product. For example, using the national flag or a historic figure in advertisements. This association aims to create a psychological connection, suggesting that if you respect the symbol, you should also respect or accept the product or idea being promoted. It's like seeing a car ad with a backdrop of beautiful mountains. It subtly suggests that owning the car equates to adventurous and liberating experiences. Fear. Using fear in propaganda involves warning the audience that terrible consequences will follow if they do not follow a particular course of action. This can be seen in public health campaigns that show the grim consequences of smoking to deter people from the habit. Politicians might use it by suggesting that their opponents' policies will lead to disaster. It taps into basic survival instincts. People are motivated to avoid pain and danger, so when fear is induced, it can drive people to make decisions or take actions that they believe will avoid the feared outcome. Name-calling. Name-calling is a negative, emotionally charged technique. It involves labeling an opponent or their idea with an unpleasant term, hoping to turn the audience against them without examining the facts. For example, calling someone a traitor or radical instantly puts them in a negative light. This technique bypasses rational thinking, appealing to emotions rather than intellect. It's effective because once a strong negative label sticks, it can be challenging to see the person or issue in an unbiased light. Loaded language. Loaded language employs specific words that are designed to produce a strong emotional response. Words like catastrophe for a policy effect, or miracle for a product's benefits, are examples. These words provoke an emotional reaction that can cloud rational judgment, making it easier to sway public opinion. It's a form of manipulation that simplifies complex issues into emotionally charged keywords or phrases, reducing the room for calm, rational debate. Repetition. Repetition is exactly what it sounds like, repeating a message frequently so that it becomes familiar and accepted. This technique relies on the psychological principle that familiarity breeds acceptance. If you hear something often enough, you start to believe it's true, or at least feel more comfortable with it. This is why slogans, jingles, and catchphrases are so common in advertising. They stick in your mind, influencing your thoughts and actions, often without you realizing it. Appeal to authority. The appeal to authority technique is used to bolster an argument by citing the opinions or endorsements of experts and authorities. The underlying assumption is that if an expert believes something, it must be true. This can be persuasive because people often lack the expertise to evaluate the information themselves and thus rely on perceived authorities for guidance. For instance, when a toothpaste brand claims that 9 out of 10 dentists recommend their product, they are leveraging the authority of dental professionals to gain consumer trust. Appeal to fear. Similar to the fear technique, the appeal to fear specifically leverages deep-seated fears to manipulate public opinion or behavior. This technique amplifies the potential dangers and risks associated with not following a particular course of action, sometimes exaggerating the consequences to provoke a stronger reaction. For example, insurance advertisements often depict scenarios of financial ruin following unexpected events to compel viewers to buy insurance as a safeguard. Logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that undermine the logic of an argument. They are often used in propaganda to mislead or deceive the audience. Common examples include ad hominem attacks, attacking the person instead of the argument, straw man fallacies, misrepresenting someone's argument to make it easier to attack, and false dilemmas, presenting two extreme options as the only possibilities. These techniques are effective because they exploit common ways of thinking, making the false reasoning seem plausible. Selective omission. Selective omission involves deliberately leaving out important details that might change the audience's perception of the information presented. By controlling what the audience knows, a propagandist can shape opinion and behavior in a desired direction without lying outright. This technique can make a weak argument appear stronger by hiding any counterarguments or negative data. For example, a political campaign might highlight a candidate's achievements while completely ignoring any failures or controversies. Simplification, stereotyping. Simplification, often through stereotyping, reduces complex issues or groups of people to a few simple characteristics, usually exaggerated ones. This technique makes complicated situations easier to understand, but often at the expense of accuracy and truth. Stereotypes reinforce preconceived notions and can lead to biased judgments. For instance, portraying a particular national or ethnic group in a specific, oversimplified way can influence public perception and behavior towards them. False dichotomy. A false dichotomy is presented when an argument incorrectly claims that there are only two possible options, when in fact there are more. This technique forces the audience into a corner, making them feel as if they must choose between A and B, when alternatives might be available. It simplifies the decision-making process but often leads to misguided choices based on incomplete information. For example, a political debate might frame an issue as a choice between freedom and security, ignoring the nuances and middle ground that may exist. Whataboutism. Whataboutism is a diversionary tactic used to shift the focus from the issue at hand to the shortcomings of others. When criticized, instead of addressing the criticism, the response is to accuse the critic of similar or different failures. This technique aims to discredit the opponent and deflect scrutiny by turning the argument into one about the critic's hypocrisy. It's commonly seen in political debates and discussions where focus and accountability are crucial. Cult of personality. The cult of personality surrounds a leader with an idealized and heroic aura, often through excessive praise and flattery. This technique involves creating a larger-than-life image of a leader, emphasizing their charisma, wisdom, and power. The purpose is to foster a sense of awe and infallibility around the leader, encouraging the public to admire and follow them unquestioningly. Historically, this has been evident in totalitarian regimes where the leader's image is omnipresent and associated with national pride and progress. Euphemisms. Euphemisms are mild or indirect words or expressions used in place of ones that might be considered harsh or unpleasant. They soften the impact of reality, making unpleasant truths more palatable. For example, saying collateral damage instead of civilian deaths in military contexts. This technique can manipulate public perception by disguising the brutality or negativity of actions or policies, making them seem more acceptable or less harmful. Oversimplification. Oversimplification occurs when a complex issue is simplified to the extent that the solution presented is not realistic. This technique makes it easier for people to understand and make quick judgments about complicated topics. However, it often leads to misleading conclusions and uninformed decision-making. For instance, suggesting that complex social issues like poverty or crime can be solved with a single policy change or action can be appealing but unrealistic.